first day, we talked a little bit at the consult and stuff. Yes, about a marker word and what that means. I want to go over it here. That way you've got the entire family able to see what it is, how we use it, and then I'll show you how we're using it first today. The very first thing we're going to use it to work on is, so we've got our snacks broken up nice and small. First things first with the marker word is it marks the exact point in time that he makes the right decision, but to teach it, we have to charge it up. We have to assign it a meaning. And in this case, we're using classical conditioning to pair a neutral stimulus, the word yes, with a primary reinforcer. So something he specifically does not have to be taught to like. Toys and pets are things that dogs have to learn how to like. Not every dog likes to play with toys, and not every dog likes every single person. So different people doing different things work differently. He's exploring the other way over there. As long as he's doing it happily, I'm good. So the way that works is we're wiring their brain to predict that they're about to get reinforcement. So it's changing how their brain responds when they hear the word yes. They go, hey, I'm gonna get a snack. Which means it has to predict. So if he can see that I've got the snack here, yes! And then I hand it to him, that doesn't predict anything because he knew the snack was there. He was staring at the snack. He knows he's gonna get the snack. So we've either gotta have it closed hands, behind your back, in a treat pouch, even closed hands. Sometimes dogs will have an iffy time on. So the very first thing we did was work on eye contact. Yes. Yes. I figured that one out really fast. Yes. The trick to that is making eye contact a consistent thing that you randomly reward him for and specifically practicing outside with distractions, but we'll go over engagement training a little bit more later. What I wanted to talk about today, for the very first thing we're working on, there are two things. Both the goals of it are communication. So we worked on this one a little bit when I had a couple minutes with him at that little mini lesson, yes, which is luring. So being able to have a treat in your hand. I've got it kind of stuck under my thumb. I want his nose attached to my hand the entire time. So I move at a pace that works for him. Yes. I can lure him in any which direction I want. Yes. We also practiced working when you go up and when you go down. Yes. He doesn't actually know the word down, but we've got him consistently luring into that position so we can start adding that cue sooner rather than later. Yes, good boy. And I'm marking and then releasing my thumb. But the why yes marks the exact second he made the right choice. The other one we're working on for more communication is the leash. So we'll have tons of different ways to tell him what we want from him. This is one of them. Dogs have what's called an opposition reflex. So when something pushes on them, they go, I need to push past that. So flat collars and harnesses tend to make dogs pull more because they push into whatever's pushing on them. So what we can do is we can teach him something else we want him to do instead. So when he feels tension, yes, he moves into the direction of where the tension is coming from. That's the goal. So we can mark the second he makes a move in that direction. Now, one of the things with the leash pressure is, one, I'm not pulling him. Especially with a tiny dog, it'd be very easy to just say, hey, I just need you to go this way and just drag him around. That's not the goal. I want him to know how to respond to leash pressure. So I add a little bit of tension in a consistent amount and hold it exactly there. Yes. We don't give him demand barking for things. Ever. I've noticed with in general, the smaller breeds, people tend to put up with things a little bit easier with them because they're not as big. Their problems don't affect you nearly as much, because worst comes to worst, all you gotta do is go whoop, I'm gonna scoop you up and now you're in air jail, so I don't have to deal with the problems because I'm just gonna hold you here and you can't make problems. So with demand barking especially, I would give my mom's dog as an example. She's 9 years old, and at this point, if you told her, no, I'm not gonna pet you, it would take her 3 hours to stop barking at you. She would just sit there for 3 whole hours. They figure out what works for them, what gets them what they want. If every time he barks, he gets something that he wants, he's basically asking you for a cue. He's saying, pet me, do this for me, feed me, take me out. And there's some benefit to it if he's telling you when he wants to go outside. That's a good thing. I like it when my dogs remind me that they need to be fed, because sometimes I get busy and I get a little distracted, but they do it politely. So it depends entirely on you, how you like him to communicate that kind of thing. But for pets and treats, absolutely not. He's never gonna get what he wants if he's barking. So add a little leash tension. Yes! So little pressure, so very little. It's almost hard to get the right amount with tiny little dogs, because I'm like, any little bit of pressure and I'm basically, yes! And then basically pulling him. Good job, buddy. So we want to work it in every direction. So since that's stuck over there, we're gonna move it over here. Yes! We'll just wander around. Do pressure. Away from me. Yes! Good job. And this gets him the idea of what we expect before we ever go outside. A solid leash walking starts in here, in a controlled environment, teaching him what we want from him on the leash. Nope. So now that he's quiet, we'll start practicing other things. Yes. Break. He has no idea what that word means, but we're going to introduce it as we get up and move for now. Yes. Break. Good. So this is where luring meets teaching him how to do commands. Yes. Break. And I'm not going to reward him unless all 4 feet are on there. I don't care if he's sitting or laying down. So he's licking them, but he can't actually get any. Yes. It's on the bed, right there. Break. It's on the bed. There you go. Good job. But leash pressure will let us hold him accountable in his different commands. It'll let us teach him how to heel. Good. But this is the first step to teaching a command. Yes. So 9 out of 10 times, break. We have to get him to be able to do it exactly the way we want it before we add a verbal cue. There's an old saying in dog training called, don't name it until you love it. So we want him to be consistently doing the behavior we want before we add a name to it. Yes. Break. Awesome. He's still doing pretty well. Typically this is about when we'd stop for a puppy. Yes, 5 to 10 minutes break. But he's got a lot of mental energy that he needs to burn off right off the bat. So I'll give him a minute or 2 to process, and then we'll do another 10-15 minute session. Most of the sessions for puppies are 10 or 5 to 15 minutes, 15 being a fairly long session for a puppy. Sometimes 15 means like breaking it up. 15 actual minutes of working. Sometimes we'll be together doing things for way longer because we're going on a walk, or we played in the middle, or whatever. So, what do we do when he's barking at you like that? The best answer is entirely ignore him. Once he's calm for a couple seconds, then we can re-engage. But he does not get to demand attention or snacks because he knows I have my snack bag. Yeah, that's what we're working on. Uh-huh. Okay, yeah. Now we're using mostly the freeze-dried, raw meal stuff. He's not working great for his regular food just yet. But try to mix them together as we go, so he's not entirely eating these. So his luring's getting very consistent. Yes. Break. So now we'll try it from a different position, because every time you change positions, yes, it feels different to a dog. They're assigning meaning based on habits, based on patterns. If you imagine that hot and cold game, yes, break. I saw one earlier where the guys were trying to get their friend to pick up a plant and take it outside, just with hot and cold. And that's kind of exactly what the shaping process of training is. So in that little pamphlet you've got, there are 3 ways to teach. Luring is one of them. Yes. Shaping is paying them for approximations. And those are the 2 biggest things that we use, because there are some things that you just can't lure him into. Like if you wanted to have him touch your hand, you can kind of by having a treat in your hand, but you can't lure his face to your hand. So, but by the way, that is a fun command. It only takes a couple minutes to teach. Yes, but you teach them how to touch. Yes, he's just doing that on accident. He doesn't actually know what the word means, but it's fabulous for getting them to, hey, I need you to move 2 feet over here, but I don't actually need you to go somewhere. I don't need to pull your collar. It just makes it, you don't have to pull their collar, you don't have to put a leash on, you can get them out of your spot on the couch or out of the spot in the doorway. It's just an easy way to maneuver them, and it's a really quick command to teach. But yes, break. Good job. So now we'll add a word to it. So when we add a word to a command, we have to make very sure that the word is separate from the current cue. So the new cue has to come first, separated from the old cue. if we want him to do this motion, yes, break, onto the cot. On a verbal cue, and he doesn't speak English, we have to be able to get him to do the thing. So, to assign meaning, dogs think in patterns. So whatever is the beginning of the pattern is what tells him, oh, this is how I get rewarded. So, Ryder, place, yes. And then you guide him on the exact same way that he already knows how to. Break. That is a car. So that from the very first time that he's doing it right. That's where we talked a minute ago about that. Don't name it until you love it. Place. Yes, that was my fault. I didn't have a treat in my hand. Break. And break officially means he can do whatever he wants. So if he wants to stay there, he actually can. Hi. Do you want to play? Do you want to play? There's a squeaker in here. Said, no, I know you got snacks. All right. So then we're still working on that. Luring him down. See, it's a little inconsistent. Yes. Where his hips will go up. Break. So I don't want to name it until that's consistent. Yes. Break. Good job, buddy. Place. Yes, no treat in my hand that time. That was beautiful. Break. And that is how we start teaching the implied stay. Notice how I did absolutely nothing? That's the point. The implied stay is taught just through practice. We teach him what we do want and what we don't want. Right now, he has absolutely no concept that he's supposed to stay there, so all we're doing is place. He's still learning the words, so he might still need some help. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Break. Good job. And you can reward him on break if you want, but for the most part, it's better to reward them in command than out of command so that they're far more motivated to stay there than they are to come to you and come get food. But we build that stay through it being implied. We practice a couple seconds at a time, building up that duration until at some point he makes a mistake. He takes a step off. That's why we practice with the leash on, so then we add a verbal marker that says, hey, that was the wrong choice, followed by a correction. In this case, it's just the leash adding a little bit of tension back onto the cot. But he hasn't done that yet, so we haven't actually worked on the correction marker just yet. Is it tasty? He very much likes licking the outside of my treat bag. Yes! He's making hard eye contact, so I'm gonna go ahead and reward that. Good. Yes! Awesome. Well, that's about what we're doing for today. Oh, we did work on, let me show you the last thing. One more thing. Is we're starting to work on, yes, starting to work on the heel position, starting with just rewarding him a whole bunch in his sit. Ooh, can't even see him right next to me. And then we can start working on taking a step and then going back into sit. Yes. Taking a step and going back into sit. Yes. Break. and just doing that. That's how we start that heel. That was on the wrong side anyway. That was on my left. I brain farted. That's okay. It's still the very beginning. He'll repractice it in a minute and he'll get it just fine on the other side. Because you have no idea what you're doing yet. You do you. You do you. Hi. Hi. He is absolutely precious. I love that when you pet his head just right, he just starts to close his little eyes. He's just gonna fall asleep sitting up. It's so very cute.